Hello and welcome, everyone. Oh, it's good to see some repeat offenders here. Not really offenders. Thank you, everyone, for your patience while we were sorting out a few technical things here on our end. But we're really glad to see you here. My name is Ann Solomons, and I'm your host for today. Hello, old friends. Um, I'm going to share my screen and give you a few updates on what to expect today and the rest of this week, which is only one more day. And then I will be excited to introduce Alexis and tell you what she's going to speak about today. So with that, let me share my screen. All right. So first of all, welcome to the MasterClass by Master Coaches Summit. And of course, you know what you're here for today, but let me share what's coming up the rest of the week, which is only tomorrow. Tomorrow morning at 8:30, we are excited to have Mercy Miglino here, and she's going to talk about how to master the 30-minute session. And I think that's definitely one we don't want to miss. 7 steps for delivering impactful, time-efficient coaching sessions. I can't wait for that, to be honest. I like that. And then we have my friend Lubna. Dr. Lubna is here at 12 noon tomorrow, and she's going to be talking about brain-based coaching, how to unlock the unconscious mind to drive change in the disruptive world. So again, very powerful session, another great session not to miss. And then wrapping up our summit, we have Marsha Reynolds. She's going to be doing a live coaching demonstration, establishing agreement, coaching presence, and evoking awareness. So again, that's a great way to wrap up our week together, and I hope I'll see you there. And with that, it gives me great pleasure. I'm going to share a few things at the end of our session today about some things that we're going to invite you to. But I'd like to first officially introduce Alexis. Before I tell you about her, let me tell you what she's going to be speaking on. Team coaching, an easier way to get hired by organizations. So team coaching's quickly become one of the fastest growing areas in the coaching profession, with a significant impact on organizations of all sizes, from government agencies to nonprofits and private corporations. As a result, it has created tremendous opportunities for coaches, so much so that the International Coaching Federation introduced a specialized credential, an advanced certification in team coaching. So learn from an experienced master certified coach and an ICF assessor how team coaching can boost your career and help meet the increasing demand within organizations. In this dynamic and empowering session, you will learn why team coaching is gaining popularity, how team coaching can enhance your career prospects, and the impact and benefits of the ICF Advanced Credential in Team Coaching. So with that, I am proud to bring Alexis to you. And a little bit more about Alexis. And Alexis, feel free to
This
jump
is
in.
definitely the old slide.
Ah, then I am not going to talk about this slide. I'm going to let you
May I
officially.
share with you really quickly the new slide by any chance, Anne?
Absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing. But before that,
Oh,
I'm going to just, well, actually, I'll put the link in at the end. Let me do this. I'm going to,
sorry, Anne.
let me stop sharing.
Would you like me to share my screen or would you like me to send it to you email? What would be
You
your
know
preference?
what? I think if you can share your screen, that would probably be the fastest way.
Yes, let's do that.
And do you
Okay.
want me to read it so you don't read about yourself? Or would
You,
you like to introduce yourself?
as you wish. I'm happy either way.
Well, I'm going to
Um,
introduce you. I'm allowing you to share. Sorry about that.
no, you're fine. Thank you so much. And let me just open that up real quick. Apologize.
No worries. Hey, welcome for those of you that just joined. So good to see you.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how to share this.
You on the bottom of your screen, if you wiggle your mouse, it should be a little green square with an arrow facing up. Just click, there you go.
Was this,
Perfect. There's
this
multiple slides. Is that okay?
That's, you guys get a sneak peek. I'm all about transparency. It's one of the ICF competencies. So we will go with it. A little bit of coaching humor there. All right.
You want
Okay.
to click on the next slide?
Yes, absolutely. Here we
There
go.
we go. Let's leave that. And then I'll, if you have these slides for this session today, you're just going to want to hit presentation mode so it's full screen. And if you
Okay.
don't know how to do it, that's fine too. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's not actually letting me do anything. So I'm not sure.
No, you're fine. We can see everything. So I would just stick
Here we
with what
go.
you've got.
You know what? I'm going to
And
try one more
oh
time.
no, where did it go? I was going to read about you.
There, full screen?
Yes, very good. Okay. So this is Alexis, her photo and in person, Director of Corporate Affairs at Goal Imagery Coaching Academy, ICF Master Certified Coach, Advanced Certified Team Coach, Credentialing Portfolio Assessor, Coach Mentor, wow, and an EMCC Senior Practitioner rated at Top Life Executive and Business Coaching Voice, and her popular posts place her among the top 1% in her field. So without further ado, Alexis, I cannot wait to hear what you've got for us this evening. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Anne. Quick inside. My friend and I, a coach and I, when we started years ago, we made a bet on who was going to have the most acronyms by the, at the end of our name, within the next 10 years. And she won by one. So a year ago. So it's all right. We kept each other on our toes. Thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate you all so much for taking the time out on your busy Thursday days or evenings. Well, you're all in Florida, right? Is everyone from Florida, or are you coming from different parts of the country? You're like, sorta. It sounds like sometimes I'm in Florida.
I'm actually from the Philippines.
Welcome. Thank you for joining from the Philippines. Yeah, so
in the chat where they're from, we've got Charlene from the Caribbean.
Oh, amazing. Must be nice there right now. Okay, so I've personally had quite a bit of success and experience getting my foot through the door with small and large companies worldwide by selling team coaching services versus selling individual team coaching packages, right? And when I realized how much easier it is to get into corporate world with team coaching, I said to myself, oh, everyone needs to know about this because there's so many companies out there and they definitely need coaching and they need the coaching culture. Let's spread the word. And so I am definitely very grateful to the Florida chapter for allowing us to kind of share this knowledge and experience with you. And hopefully you gain a lot of knowledge from and value from this session where you can then go out and feel a lot more confident getting your foot into the door and selling your services into an organization, which then can eventually lead to you being a one-on-one coach to the CEO, CFO, whoever you decide on as well. So anyway, so through the team coaching services, I was able to build a lot of really critical relationships, right? And work my way up to eventually gaining individual career and executive coaching contracts in those organizations. So that was my way in, and it was a much more effective way to get in. In general, it's much easier for an organization to justify paying for team coaching rather than coaching a single individual. That's just what I've learned from my years of doing this. And especially if the team is involved in a critical project. So you're definitely going to want to do your research on this stuff. From the organization's perspective, speaking to all the different HR individuals and just in general, it's all about risk versus reward. So if a coach can help a single individual employee increase his or her productivity by 10%, the organization might not see a positive ROI from hiring that coach. On the other hand, if the entire team increases its productivity by that same 10% on a project, well, that could have significant long-term benefits and impact on the organization's bottom line. And the organization can much more easily see the value in hiring the team coach versus hiring an individual career or executive coach. So it's going to be much easier to get in. It's kind of like if you think about your very first team coaching engagement at the organization as an investment also, this will also provide a foot through the door with the organization of interest, right? So why am I saying that? Basically, don't worry so much of how much you're going to charge for your first time doing it with the organization. That's like the number one question I get asked. Well, Alexis, what do I get? What do I charge? Who cares? Get your foot in the door and then charge whatever you want to charge after that, right? Plus, believe me, there will be a time and a place to discuss the organization's budget and what you'll be charging, right? So get the foot in the door first and then worry about prices. Don't get hung up on that. Instead, definitely think about your services and the value you're going to provide. What are you bringing to that organization when it comes to team coaching? So with that being said, a little pro tip, consider bundling together like team coaching offer with maybe individual coaching. Just saying, if you want to, right? Or maybe team coaching, coaching the leadership team, right? And maybe one or two key employees. And make sure you make your offer as irresistible as possible when it comes to selling your services into that organization with whoever you're speaking with. Okay, so here we go. Fun little. You see, I'm very to the point. The first slide you saw was like a book. It was like a novel. You could tell that I didn't write it. I write this. 2-word responses in my PowerPoints. Right? But if you have any additional, or if you want me to provide additional notes afterwards, I can always help out with that. All right. So the question I always used to ask myself was, which organization is going to give me the best chance of success? Right? So why am I asking that question? Well, you want to find an organization where the particular understanding or your knowledge of that industry, or even of that organization in particular, could bring added value in itself. That will definitely increase the chances of the team as well as your own success. To start out anyway. Again, once you're in there, don't worry about it. But first, you got to get in there and show them how great you are. You want to look again at the initial team coaching assignment as an opportunity to create valuable relationships also. I always thought of my very first team coaching assignment is really a networking event, right? Yes, it's to provide valuable team coaching, but it's also your moment to kind of create those relationships, because the one thing my dad always told me was business is nothing if not relationships. Without that, there is no business. So you want to focus on that. And you want to, again, prove your value as both a team and individual coach while you're creating those relationships. How are you creating those relationships? By providing that value. And that being said, you have to do your homework. When you talk to HR, try to, subtly or appropriately demonstrate your knowledge and or understanding of that particular industry and or organization. Right? You want to kind of always give them a bit of that, hey, I do know what you're going through. I do know your struggle. And here I am. I am your answer potentially to these struggles and frustrations, right? You want to definitely acknowledge the challenges and pain points of the industry without criticizing the company. So I did sales for a long time. Zoom likes to cover up some of the stress lines that I've had from working for some big organizations. And you'd never want to criticize the company. You always want to share it in a positive focal point. This is an opportunity for them to succeed versus, you know what, your company really sucks. Can't believe you guys have been doing it this way this whole time, right? Yeah, so you never want to criticize. But you want to try to demonstrate also general familiarity. Sorry, today's a day with my words, obviously, with their history, right? Marketing, you want to understand their marketing position or their market position, their obvious strengths, their successes of the past, and bring that into your knowledge. And you want to be aware of their primary brands, but avoid coming off as a self-taught expert in their company, right? So you don't want to be like, yeah, I know everything about your company, but I've never worked for your company. You definitely want to come in with, hey, I've worked maybe with these types of of individuals or this type of industry before. I have some sort of familiarity with this expertise that I can provide to you. And of course, you want to briefly always explain to whoever you're speaking with the similarities and differences between individual coaching and team coaching. It's not always clear. Pointing out that a company is as much like a living organism with its own strengths and weaknesses, and that as a coach, you work with the strengths, right? And you help elevate those strengths. So, and that brings me to the next question, or the next issue that I hear a lot with a lot of coaches trying to jump into team coaching and sell their services, and that is becoming confident. The most common issue is how to feel confident in what you're offering. And the confidence grows with one, I hate to say it, there's no easy route, experience and continuous learning. And it's also about consistency. So here are some steps to move you in the direction, hopefully, of becoming confident in selling your services and also knowing that you're selling in the right service. Yes, there's also going to be a space of, trial and error where you're going to be trying it and you're not going to get a yes from, maybe you'll get a yes from the very first go, which would be fantastic. But if you don't, keep going, keep refining that, that offer, whatever it is, but more so keep becoming more confident in yourself and in your offer. Think of it, would this be something I would want if I was on the team, right? So the first thing is self-assessment. I think everyone here is probably aware self-assessments are super important. Like every coach I know has some form of self-assessment or assessments that they use and bring in. So use them, right? Reflect on your skills that you have, your experience, your knowledge, and identify the areas you can excel and the areas you need to improve. Kind of basic, right? Then your training and certification. Organizations, now that there is a training and certification for team coaching, are starting to look for that and look at that. When I started doing this, before it was even a thing, nobody cared. They just want to know you're a PCC coach or you're working towards some sort of credential and you have experience. Now organizations are looking to see, are you credentialed in that? Do you know what you're talking about when it comes to that? However, it's not a necessity yet anyway, I don't think, but it's good to have because then you're more confident in that as well. It's going to build your confidence. And then practice and feedback. I would work with maybe small groups to practice your coaching. If you are shaky, by the way, on individual coaching, team coaching is going to be significantly harder because now you have to listen instead of one voice, potentially 15 different voices, 15 different versions of body language that you have to look out for, right? So definitely get good at that as well. Looking at body language, what they're saying, what they're not saying, and practice in smaller groups. And then, I have a love-hate relationship with niches, by the way. I think some of them are great. And I think not some of them. I think niching is great when you're starting out. But I think in the long run, niching may not be what you need at all, honestly. Right. So, and I'm Barbara. I saw you went off of mute. Did you have a question or a thought or?
Yeah, sorry, but then I said I don't want to interrupt.
Not at all.
Just if you can give a more specific number. When you talk about smaller group, it's like 5, 3, or 10, because I don't know.
So you want to start with something you're comfortable with. I think 2 is actually a bigger difficulty level than it is with working with 3 individuals, for example, right? But it's really up to your comfort level. But it would be up to 15, right? In team coaching, according to ICF, 15 is the maximum you can coach without having a co-coach, a co-host with you. And then you can obviously coach more individuals. But that being said, yeah, practice with 5, practice with 3, whoever you can, work with. Group coaching will be, of course, different than team coaching. So, but if you're able to incorporate those skills of listening, right, to those different individuals, as different members of that group, you'll be able to apply that to team coaching as well. Does everyone here know the difference between group and team coaching, by the way?
No. I don't. I was going to ask my next.
Do.
Well, thank you, Barbara, for bringing that up. You're the brave one that I think many were asking in their own minds of what's the difference. So group coaching is essentially, you can bring together many individuals working towards their own goals that when they leave the group coaching session, so Barbara, you and I could be together in a room being coached on a similar topic, but then when we leave the room, Barbara, you and I can never speak again, and we would be just fine because we left with what we needed to leave with in that group coaching call. On the other hand, team coaching is individuals who work for the same organization and work on the same team, working towards a same goal. So for example, a project, something where they have to rely on one another to achieve that goal. So if you and I are in the same team and we're in marketing, let's say, so maybe I'm in charge of, let's say, and I'm in charge of creating the sales plan for marketing, and you're in charge of creating the billboards. But together, we're creating the bigger plan of how to sell clothes, right? Versus if it's just you doing it alone and I'm not there putting it out there on the field, then we're in trouble because it's only one little piece, right? So team coaching, same organization, same goal, same, team members, they rely on one another. Group coaching, strangers, potentially, maybe not strangers, maybe friends, but two different businesses, for example.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. It was a wonderful question. And I don't know if there's questions in the chat. Team coaching, would you consider also the leader? Absolutely, Gaston. Yes. I do recommend, so maybe I will take the Q&As towards the end because I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of juicy questions and conversations here. But yes, absolutely consider bringing the leader. Absolutely. Yeah. They're usually the head of the team. Okay. Right. So niche, love-hate relationship. But, when you're getting your foot in the door, I do recommend it, especially from a sales perspective. I noticed that works really well, right? So whether it's leadership coaching, sports coaching, whatever you want it to be, which by the way is up and coming, coaching, which is funny, a coach working with a coach to coach their team. That will get confusing fast, right? But it will make you more attractive, right? The next thing is you really want to consider is also networking. Connect with other coaches, attend conferences like you're doing now, right? And join professional organizations because the networking will lead to more opportunities and you will be able to answer maybe questions and make you feel more confident as well. So really great space to build that confidence. Last but not least, do you want to market yourselves? I hear so many times from coaches that say, well, I don't really feel comfortable putting myself out there. Cool. No one's going to know you're there. Keep it up, right? Nothing will happen if you don't put yourself out there. So instead, put yourself out there. Funny enough, recently I had someone tell me, I didn't know that you teach, Alexis, at an institute, at an academy. And I said, well, why not? I talk about it all the time. And they said, no, you actually don't. You haven't mentioned it once in any of your posts. Oh, right. And so, right. And I've been doing this for years and I couldn't believe that. So definitely market and then be really clear and concise and share what it is that you do and share it with everybody, right? I do team coaching now. Do you have a team that needs to, that wants to have, I don't know, leadership coaching or needs career coaching or whatever you're going to go for? Here's how I can help, right? So basically showcasing yourself. And then something also that helps you become more confident is definitely and having a polished and ready to go are something that I found to be a huge help and assistance was compiling frequently asked questions that I would get when I was talking to organizations, right? So, even the top 10, if you can think of the top things you think or an organization will ask, or after having a conversation with somebody in HR, for example, if you can easily either respond to that, either verbally or email them quickly the response, the quicker, by the way, the better, because they usually are looking at multiple coaches if they're already looking, then that's going to be a huge assist to you as well. And again, it's going to help you seal the deal and feel confident in those meetings and organizations, right? So here are some of the questions I was asked in the past. So it's not going to be, I'm going to share with you my top questions that I was asked. So it's not a mystery to you. If you don't have any experience with it, let me help you get some experience and see what you can answer for yourself when it comes to this. So without further ado, oh, where did it go? Where are they? Man. Oh, there it is. I don't know why this was a hidden thing. So hidden gem right there. So one of the these are my top questions that I get asked quite frequently. What's your coaching philosophy? If you don't know what that means, boy, will it be helpful to find out, right? What experience do you have? What did you do prior to becoming a coach? Has thrown me for a loop the first time I heard that question. How do you assess team needs? This is going to be a really great question that you get asked a lot. What's your communication style? How do you handle conflict? What's your conflict management style? 90% of team coaching is conflict management and communication, by the way, in case you're curious. So if you're not comfortable with conflict management, then get comfortable or do it on the fly, get comfortable in the team coaching, right? Go out and get into a fight. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Okay. So, what's your game plan? That's a question I surprisingly get asked quite a lot. What's your game plan? What's the strategy for the next 6 sessions you're going to be with the team, or 10 sessions, or 6 months, whatever you decide on? How do you motivate the team? What's your coaching style? Oh, I wing it. How do you support our goals? You have goals? And how do you handle team development? What team? These are obviously all the wrong answers I'm giving you, right? Hopefully you're not asking them, what team? What goals? Hopefully then, if you have questions, by the way, when they're asking you these questions, I did interviews quite a bit as well when I worked for a large tech company. And so the number one thing that I learned that I love the most is hearing applicants ask questions. So yes, know the answers to these frequently asked questions, but also have some questions ready for yourself to ask the organization that would be helpful for you as a coach, right? So how will you support our goals? If you don't know, then genuinely ask, well, what are your goals? Are you clear on your goals? What is your vision for your team for the next year? Some questions I ask, right? Just to give you an idea of how that conversation might look like when you are in it. Are there any questions around this by any chance? These questions? No? Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to give you some answers, or not answers, but maybe kind of give you some ideas to each of these questions, because I know I went through these questions and I made a few, hopefully, jokes that made your night or day a little bit brighter, right? Or maybe you have some anxiety now going, my goodness, I don't know what half of these mean. So, or what to answer for these. So hopefully I'm going to help you calm those nerves and feel really calm and confident. So what's your coaching philosophy? You want to share overarching philosophy, highlight your values. What do you value, right? What are your beliefs? And approach to developing teams and individuals. So take time to think about, how do you develop your own clients on an individual level? I know that everyone's individual and there's no one size fits all. But when it comes to teams and they're coming in with a specific issue, they usually want to know what is going to be the structure. Please provide them some of that. Provide them what your values you have and how they align with that structure. You're going to hopefully provide a little bit to that team. When they ask, what experience do you have? Tell them the truth, right? Briefly outline your coaching background and include any relevant certifications and, past teams or success stories or anything relevant from your past life prior to being a coach. Don't start from when you were born, right? When I was born, right? Don't do that. But anything relevant, and be succinct. That's something I also learned is crucial in a lot of these meetings, is to be succinct. You want to be as clear as possible on what you're providing. Another pro tip, by the way, is to run these questions through with somebody who you trust. Answer these questions and ask them, how clear was I? What was unclear? And polish your message. Yeah. How do you assess team needs? Explain the process for assessing your team dynamics, whether maybe it's a strength survey, right? Maybe it's a 360 evaluation, and help them understand that you're able to pinpoint the areas for improvement. And again, you can also mention tools like personality assessments, team surveys. There's so many of them out there now. So by all means, do your research and find the one that you're most comfortable with. I will tell you what, though, I am MBTI certified. I have used it 5 times since I've gotten that certification. So really, and I was so excited, right? And I was considering becoming this certified, but I figured if I barely use MBTI, when am I going to use that as well? How needed is that, right? So hopefully you learn from my experiences, so it saves you time, money, and energy so that you can join into these teams and organizations much easier and saving your money, right? What's your communication style? So you want to describe your communication approach, right? You definitely want to emphasize that you are an active listener. And you want to emphasize that you're all about transparency as well. And you want to mention that you're adaptable and hopefully you have empathy. I think most coaches have empathy though, so it should be a non-issue. But those are the top things that I've noticed that HR's ears and high-level C-suite ears perked up for. Those are the 4 that seem to have caught their interest. Okay, so again, sharing some of those secrets with you. How do you handle conflict, right? What's your conflict management style? Well, I actually used to come into the meetings and say, oh, I have a referee whistle. How do you do it? And they would look at me kind of all confused. So as you can tell, I definitely have a quirky style and a quirky sense of humor. You can tell, right? And I bring that in. Me personally, I bring in my sense of humor to break up tension in the room of conflict and then hopefully alleviate that tension and make it into something productive. That's my communication style. Think about what your communication style is. What do you do specifically to address the disagreements, right? Mention in there that, hey, you acknowledge the elephant in the room. You don't ignore it. If you're a coach that kind of just says conflict, yeah, we'll work on that. Should they bring it up? That's not what they want to hear. They want to hear about how you're going to specifically address it, acknowledge it, work through it, and make the team a cohesive team that becomes a very effective team. That's why they're hiring us, right? So you definitely want to mention the conflict resolution strategies and your abilities. So again, I use humor, just what I naturally do. So think about, what do you naturally do? If you don't think you have one, I can almost guarantee you do, because you've definitely gotten into a fight with somebody in the past where it was a high stakes, where you knew you had to come out of it unscathed to some degree, right? Think about, what did you do? Did you use humor? Did you negotiate with them? What was the strategy that you used in that conflict, right? We have years of experience, life experience we could use. So active listening, empathy, right? You also want to mention creating a neutral ground, no judgment zone. Super important as well, right? All things coaching, surprising, isn't that? Right. And when you are doing conflict management, something I will share with you is you want to get to the root cause of that conflict. Try not to stay on the surface. Don't fall for it. Go deeper. Don't be afraid of it. Dive in. Just don't drown. Okay. Have a little straw. Okay. Right. Something else. One last thing that HR definitely likes to know is that you're able to help with some form of emotional regulation when it comes to conflict management. So again, mine is humor. Humor happens to somehow emotionally regulate things, right? But you have to, see, when I do it, I'm very sensitive. I don't want to offend anyone, right? And you want to be very careful with that, because that can also be blown out of proportion if not used properly, okay? Something else that's very important, by the way, in team coaching is boundary setting, especially in conflict resolution. Boundary setting is going to be key. And you want to typically set that up in your first engagement with a team. All right, next question. What's your game plan? Like, that couldn't be more broad, could it? So instead, you can explain how you tailor your coaching plans to each team, discuss goal setting, share with them how practicing a routine, making sure that everyone is committed and that there are strategies when it comes to this game plan of yours, whatever it is. Of course, I can't share with you unless you have a specific case right now. You're like, Alexis, this is what I'm dealing with. Then I can help you come up with a game plan or a strategy for the team. But otherwise, you want to kind of cater it per team. Yeah, Jimmy.
Hey, Alexis.
Hello.
I see in the chat there was a question of what are the four, I think it was under communication style. What are the four things you said that there was
Crucial.
active listening, three others?
Yeah, so when it comes to that, active listening, empathy, adaptability, and transparency. Hopefully I did.
Is that
did
three or is that four?
Let's see. See, my math is impeccable, right? I'm counting on fingers. Active listening, transparency, adaptability, and empathy 4.
Empathy. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Did I pass the test? And
yeah, 100%.
all right. Okay. Okay. Are there any other? Well, I'll answer anything else as well. So then the next one is, how do you motivate the team, right? And so how would you motivate a team? Boy, do I have stories on that for days. But you do want to share, individualized encouragement and maybe even team building activities that you can incorporate. Team building activities could be like a 2-3 minute thing that you bring into the very beginning of the coaching, right? So I have this fun game. I have quite a few fun games that I literally make up as I go, but one of them is called Ninja, right? And I basically, you don't expect this, but Ninja is I turn off the light and I tell everyone to strike a ninja pose. And then when we turn on the light, everyone's in a different pose. I've had people on top of a desk before. It was really, and one person was actually nearly on a lamp. I was so impressed by that. Believe it or not, though, these kinds of little building activities that take all of maybe 2 minutes to do create such an impact that it actually motivates them and bonds the team, and it gets their blood going too. Like the blood pumps, and suddenly they're like, okay, we're ready for the meeting, right? And then they're all giggling and they're all having fun. And after the meeting, they're all ready to go because you had a strong start to your meeting. They had fun. They came together, and so really, really a great way to kind of bring that there to the team. And then how will you support our goals? Well, essentially you want to assure them that you're committed in aligning your coaching efforts with the team objectives, right? And what is your commitment? The commitment is you're going to show up. You're going to be there for every single meeting. You'll be available for emails, maybe phone calls. What will you be available for? In what way will you align your coaching efforts? In what way will you support the team inside the meetings and potentially outside the meetings? By the way, when speaking of price, you want to consider there's a lot of work that goes into it outside of the coaching session, in the team coaching session as well. So something to consider. And then what is your coaching style? Boy, oh boy. You can just share with them what your coaching approach is. Do you have, I've heard of a few different ones, right? So the one that I go with is holistic coaching, right? I am considering the whole person. I'm including the physical, the emotional, the mental aspects. And I'm well aware that who you are at home isn't going to change when you come to work and vice versa. So that is my approach. But from what I understand, there's like 11 or 12 other coaching approaches out there, and you can combine them if you want to. You can find the one that describes you and what you do the best, and you can go with it from there. Right? So, there's development. I'm a developmental coach. I aim to enhance the skills that your team has. I'm very, strategically focused, right? So, so there's different kinds of approaches there. And then, I'm not missing any other things, right? Okay. And then the last question is, how do you handle team development? So you're going to want to talk about skill development. You're going to want to talk about individual feedback. And how are you going to provide growth opportunities for that team? And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's not your responsibility to make them grow, but you want to create those awarenesses. You want to create space and opportunity in the team coaching sessions where they feel like they have the opportunity to become their best selves, their better versions of themselves as a whole, as a team, right? And so, and, you know, with that being said, I would, you know, if you don't already have some knowledge around this, I would recommend looking into, you know, different stages of team development, just for your own knowledge, so that when you are with a team, you will know what stage maybe they're in and where you need to help them. It's all, you know, so for example, I think it's Tuckman's five stages of team development, right? One of my absolute favorites. And you know, you've heard of it, I see. You're smiling. Yes, yeah. One of my absolute favorites, right? That's it, Gaston. That's right. Forming, norming, storming, and performing. That's right. And then there's also sometimes a fifth one. Do you know the fifth one, Gaston? Pop quiz. When they leave, that's right. Adjourning. Bye-bye. Yeah. 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 So yeah. So definitely, yep, adjourning. That's the one. Amazing. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend you getting to know some of these team development, right? Stages, so that again, you know where the team is maybe, and you're able to kind of pinpoint, okay, so they're in the forming stage. They're just getting to know each other. They're focusing on the objectives. They're focusing on their roles. They need to have a better idea on what they're, you know, what everything looks like. No, you're getting a clap where everyone is impressed by you, Gaston. Yeah, yeah, I am impressed as well. And so, right, so when you know where they are, it's easier for you to understand where they're going to be headed, right, with these team development. So definitely take a look at these so how do you handle team development? Well, I know that there's different stages a team goes through. And this is, you know, we can assess which stage your team is in, and then we can work with them from there. And so you see how everything kind of starts to work with one another. Now, when preparing to answer frequently asked questions, and I do want to leave a few minutes of time for a Q&A, because I'm hoping you guys have some things on top of heart and mind. But that being said, when you are preparing for these frequently asked questions during the meetings, or even with potential team coaching clients, I would consider, you know, a few things, you know, I'm going to just spell it out almost, right? Like at this point, I don't know what's going on with me today. Familiarize yourself with, you know, specific context of the coaching engagement. Understand the team needs, the challenges, and the organizational culture, how it all is playing in together, right? You want to have a clear message, like I said before, and then you want to be transparent, right? Something I always do, and I still do, is if I don't know the answer to a question, I actually admit it. Even to this day, I go, I don't know, but I will find out, and I will get back to you, right? And that shows a lot of professionalism, and it creates trust. It also makes you human, which is beautiful. So definitely, if you don't know an answer, it's okay. Don't let that rattle you or shake you in the middle of a meeting. Just say, I'm not sure. I will find out and I'll get back to you. It's really simple as that, right? And then when you're closing out the meetings, whatever it is, you know, one of my first mentors years ago when I was traveling the nation, doing presentation, and the first thing he said to me was, Alexis, do you know how much information they are retaining from your hour-long presentation? I said, oh, like 90%. He said, no, try 10%. What? 10%? He goes, yeah, and that's if you repeat yourself. I go, are you kidding me? So something I've learned, and if you're noticing it even in my presentation today, I'm repeating myself. I'm repeating myself on certain points. because I know that that is probably and likely what you're going to walk away with. You're going to keep, you're going to remember. If you didn't take notes on it, it's going to stick out to you. So at the end of a meeting, please take a minute to highlight again, once again, your unique value, right? What sets you apart as a coach? Why you versus, I don't know, Sandy from next door. Okay, so definitely repeat yourself in the meeting at the end. Okay, so is this a 60-minute or a 90-minute, Anne?
It is a 60-minute, so 10
Okay.
minutes, and I'll just need a few minutes, very short, like 5 minutes at the end to wrap up.
Okay, amazing. So, okay, so then if that's a 60-minute, then that's fantastic. Then would it be all right if we open it up for 5 minutes for Q&A if anyone has questions and answers? Well, I have some answers, maybe. I might have some questions for you even. Don't all rush in to ask at once. Everyone's like, no, Alexis, you've been clear and you repeated yourself so many times. It's here forever. Gonna dream about it.
People have questions.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I'm so sorry. Oh, let me.
No, I don't see anything yet. Nothing. Ah, here we go. No, we just have, Charlene, too many.
You have, well, you have what? I'm sorry, what was that? We just have too many. Charlene, that's great. Thank you. Okay. So then here's, if you're like me, who thinks of questions after a meeting, right? Or like the next day or 2 days later, oh man, I wish I could have asked then here is my contact information. Please feel free, if you're in the United States, to text me or call me. I respond the quickest. Email, and then LinkedIn, WhatsApp. Yeah, that's a funny one. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. I'm gonna be honest. So all the other ways is fantastic, right? So hopefully you're able to contact me with any other questions you might have and just connect, because I love our community and I do want to be part of the strong community and to help you with any questions you might have in general in the future.
Can I have a question, Alexis?
Yeah, Gaston.
Yeah. So, one question from an introvert, right? I facilitated group sessions and I have done some group coaching and stuff like that. And it's challenging, especially when you have to handle all of these energies in the room and stuff like that. So, any trick, any recommendation, any tip that you can have around that?
Introvert. Yeah, I'm an introvert, Gaston.
Yeah,
And
you're
so,
hiding well.
you wouldn't believe it, but it takes me a day to recuperate sometimes after that. Yeah. So, the tip for an introvert is, I think that, hate to say it, ChatGPT is going to be your friend, because I find that it helps with sometimes crafting some responses and thinking some things through with. And so if you're an introvert, you can very easily kind of talk to ChatGPT and figure out ways to kind of more easily do things, like maybe type into there, like, what would be one thing that you would do, ChatGPT? I've done that so many times, Gaston, being very, again, transparency, where I have a whole conversation with ChatGPT, like, okay, I have to respond to this. This is what I want to say. And then ChatGPT is like, no, Alexis, what are we doing here? Right. And it helps me with the response. So, but that being said, as an introvert, maybe finding that one connection a week, whether it's through LinkedIn or through somebody you already know, right? And so, or even asking somebody, hey, would you happen to know anybody? Or maybe there's someone already in an organization. Hey, I would really love to do this, and create a little bit of that connection, a little bit of that spark, one person at a time. How does that feel to you, Gaston, when I'm kind of sharing with you little things I've done?
That feels more close to the heart and natural for me.
Yeah.
But I was also referring when you are coaching the team, and how you deal with the different energies in the room, right? So the overpowering voices and the ones that are more introverts, and making sure that without sounding like you have enough talking today, so let's out of the rest or something like that.
Yeah. So I think it's important when there's different energies in the room to hopefully give everyone some space to speak, but also reading that room, right? So if someone's uncomfortable, you can give them the spotlight, but if you see that they're kind of withdrawing, saying, okay, and then moving on to the next, right? And I think you'll feel it out, Gaston, especially as an introvert, right? You'll be able to figure out that. And I think all of us have a unique ability to be able, we're humans, right? It's all part of our primal brain to feel that out. So, but giving them the space to respond, and then go every time you learn something about those individuals, honoring that style going forward, or even having a one-on-one conversation prior to of what would be your the best way, what would be your communication style, what would be something you would appreciate in the sessions if you have that opportunity, Gaston.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah. Charlene, you have so many questions, Charlene.
I narrowed it to one for you. I was able.
Thank you.
I'm giving my mic. I was able to get one. So I'm in the Caribbean, and I really wanted to thank you so much. Thank you, ICF and the programming committee, for putting this together. I'm really happy I joined this call. I really, really am. I've been playing around with the idea of approaching a lot of companies. I'm in St. Lucia, by the way, but coaching. And I only recently decided, initially when I started coaching, I'm like, you know what, the Caribbean, we're not ready for coaching. So that's a reason for me not to focus on the Caribbean. And I realized that and yes, I'm judging myself, that was the dumbest thing I could have ever thought. Because what I realized is that, no, this is why I need to do it. Anyway, so I had a plan, I have a list of companies. And one of the barriers I am seeing is, how do you tell a company they need coaching if they don't even know they need coaching? So there are executive coaches. If you look at the Caribbean, there's so many people talking about being a leadership coach and an executive coach, but it's more individual. And how do you, when you approach a company, whether it be small, medium, which would be where I would love to start playing in. So I love the advice you gave up front, starting small. How do you explain to them, not using the coaching language, because half the time they ain't going to get it. So how do you explain to them, you need coaching? How do you use the words to say that to them?
So it goes back to the basics of sales almost, right? So hopefully you're pinpointing some of their pain points. And so you're able to kind of express to them, hey, I'm noticing some of the areas of opportunity. Notice my language, by the way. It's not you're struggling or this is, you need it, right? Some areas of opportunity are, when I was talking with some of your employees, how did you gain this information, right? That they need this coaching, right? When I was talking to some of your employees, or when I worked there, or whatever it is, that there was a communication breakdown in emails. And as a result, projects would get delayed, for example, right? And so I see a unique opportunity to make your teams much more effective. And that's why I think you could use me when it comes to this, right? And then explain to them the benefit of it, right? Back to that sales 101, the benefit of, hey, if you have better communication, then those teams are able to finish that project faster, then it's out on the market sooner, then you're able to sell it, XYZ. So create the vision for them, Charlene, because they won't see it because they're too close to it. It's kind of like, when you're in a conversation with someone, you're close to it. And then when someone's listening in, they go, oh, why didn't they say that or do that? Same thing. You're on the outside and you're able to say, this is what I see. This is what you need. And this is how it can be done. And this is what will be the result of this team coaching. Charlene, I hope that helps you.
Thank you, Alexis. And because we are really close, 2 minutes left,
Sorry. And
No,
thank you so
this is
much for everything.
perfect. No, this is absolutely perfect timing. I put some links in the chat. I'm also going to share my screen with the QR code and those links. So you have two options, but I would like to, on behalf of everyone here, Alexis, thank you so much for a great session, really impactful information. I think everyone's got a lot to take from your session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you so very much, everyone. Make sure you do connect. You can connect with each other here on LinkedIn. It's always good to have additional resources. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen real quick. So you have another vision of the links that I placed into the chat. So for ICF South Florida, the business show, this is a free registration link for anyone interested in attending the South Florida Business Show in Miami. And then, of course, the survey. It's really important to us that we get your feedback. So please click on that link and respond to the survey. And I know you probably have more questions, but please reach out to Alexis. Thank you all so much for being here. Don't forget to complete the survey. Let me see what's in the chat. I know there's a few things in the chat. If it'll let me bring it back up. Just some thank yous. Everyone's saying thank you.
And thank you, Anne, for facilitating this and helping out and making this all happen. And thank you to the ICF Florida chapter. I really am grateful to you all.
And we are definitely grateful to you.
Thank you.
All right, I will stop sharing in a moment and end the meeting, but not quite yet. Just make sure we got everybody's messages.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you all have a great night or morning, wherever you are.
Thank you. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Alexis.
Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for being
I made an
here.
appointment with
you
you. I'll
so
talk with you
much.
soon.
That would be great. Yes.
We were supposed to meet today.
We were?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have time now?
sure.
Okay.
You guys
Bye.
sort that out. We're gonna close this session, and Charlene put new member orientation happening Monday. Please pass that on. So I want to make sure that you all got that. And it was great connecting. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great night.
Great night.
Everyone.
Give me all
Bye.
Thank
check
you.
my calendar or